Hi, welcome to Reading Bites, and I'm the Book Vampire, and today we're going to be reading Stephen King's The Shining. Let's get a good look at it there. Okay, this is one of his more modern copies, okay? Give you a bit of background on this book. This is Stephen King's third book, and it was published in 1977, and it was actually inspired by his visit to the Stanley Hotel with his wife Tabitha King in 74. The whole deal with this was he was one of the last people in the hotel, and he stayed in room 217, which inspired room 217 in here, which was supposedly haunted. It's one of his more unusual books because if you read a lot of Stephen King, or you might not, so you won't know, a lot of his books are based in Maine or Bangor, which I believe is where around Stephen King lives. Now, if you have heard of The Shining, you've probably also heard of the film The Shining, which was made in 1980, and that was done by Kubrick. I highly recommend the book over the film, just because I love books anyway, but also the book has bits in it that the film doesn't. One of my favourite involves the hedge animals and the playground, which isn't in the film at all, and it's actually incredibly creepy, and the sense of dread that comes across from it is almost palpable, so the book always. Okay, this is obviously a haunted house book and a ghost story, but they are in a way kind of separate. The book starts with Jack Torrance, one of the main protagonists of the book, accepting a job at the Overlook on the recommendation of a friend because he's lost his job at Vermont Prep due to alcoholism and violence. Now, this is a really, really important theme of the book, and obviously because it's a sequel to this, you know, in the series of the Shining books, one of the big themes of the books as well is claustrophobia and cabin fever. Now, I actually really struggled to read this book originally. I tried picking this book up twice as a teenager. Couldn't read it. Got no more than 50 pages through it both times, which may be an issue for some people, but I really advise you to stick with it. And that is the point of it. It starts off slow. It's slow building. It is a claustrophobic book. The whole deal with that is this is set in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. It's in the winter season. Everyone's gone from the hotel. It's just 3 people in this hotel. At first, they can leave the hotel. There's an incident where they have to take Danny to the hospital, to a doctor's, which they do. But suddenly they cut off from that, and that's when everything starts to go downhill. The house actually does try to possess Danny because of his ability, The Shining. Now, he knows there's something different with him. He knows he's a little bit more unusual. He can tell when people are upset. He can get glimpses of things. But it's when he meets Dick Halloran, who again is very, very important, and his character is very different. What happens to him is very different in the film from the book. So again, always read the book. Explains to him what The Shining is, and gives him examples, like when, you know, bad things happen to him, he could always smell oranges. And it makes Danny feel better because, rightly, Dick Halloran gets, you know, very nervous about this young family staying in this house alone with all these incidents that have happened, and the Overlook has got a very, very bad history. You know, gangsters have died there, people have killed themselves there, all sorts has happened. And Danny Torrance, quite obviously, he has this antenna for the unusual, picks this up. Like I said, slow burn in cabin fever, slowly burns up, and because the house can't possess Danny, it goes for Jack, and Jack's history of alcoholism and anger slowly builds up until everything explodes. Jack goes after his entire family with axe. I'm not going to ruin the story because most people will have the gist of this. They'll have heard of the whole Here's Johnny thing, which isn't in the book, it's in the film. But it is actually one of my favourites, and I'm really sad that it took me so long to read this book. It's brilliantly written. It's kind of an unusual haunted house story, and some of the ways the ghosts manifest themselves are quite creepy and quite unusual, including one of them where young Danny is accosted by a fire hose that he seems to see as a snake. They're quite creepy, and I'm going to give this 4 out of 5 bats. The only reason I'm giving it 4, not 5, is due to the fact that it's very slow going. Myself, and I love books and adore books and generally devour them, really struggled to get into it twice, and it was only the 3rd time that I was lucky. So if you do pick this up, please, please, please keep at it. Okay? Okay, next week we're going to be reviewing Stephen King's Doctor Sleep. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you then. Goodbye!